Guys, let's take a look at how all fire escapes are built. Every fire escape in the United States is built on this method. Nothing else is done. Basically, they're all buried into the wall 8 to 12 inches deep. That's it. They go through the veneer, and they're only buried 8 to 12 inches deep. There's no special bracket back there holding it from pulling out. They have a pocket. They filled it with cement. They stuck the steel in there. That's it. This is what it looks like when the wall starts getting in there, through the veneer, through the sills. It starts cracking everything. Here's a C-channel holding up 2 full staircases and no bracket on it. You load that with men and firemen, what happens? If it's only buried 8 to 12 inches deep into the wall. A lot of them will have the bracket, and the bracket either has a single bolt or it has a gusset on the end. The gusset is just like that gusset. You see that gusset right there, guys? That gusset is all blown out on one side. The bolt is still there, and it's got 3/4 of rust inside. Well, that's usually what I find, either there or on the bottom side of the bracket. But again, it's also buried into the wall 8 to 12 inches deep, and a lot of times the bottom one is buried into the wall, and this is what happens on the bottom one. It gets channeled water every day, so what happens to it? It rusts away. On the inside, on some buildings that are factories, you're going to see them not into the masonry wall, they're going to be through-bolted into the backside, but then the pins are so small, what do they do to the bricks?
Pull it out.
They pull them out. They push them in. You know, bricks decay. Now, these are all things that if a photograph came to you, see, inspectors give you a letter. It says the word deflection, rust, and accumulation, and growth. Everybody's got a digital camera today. Every engineer is going to give you photographs of the situation, so you don't have to go visit the site. The photographs are going to speak for themselves. And you're going to see how serious the situation is, because you're going to have a one-on-one with your structural engineer about what you're going to do about this fire escape on this particular building. In case you want to grow ferns and stuff, this is what you're doing now. It's a good place to grow fire escape ferns. This is a library in Boston. That's 1 inch of rust on that gusset. 1 inch. It only takes 50 years to grow 1/2 inch. How many years to grow this much? Again, if you want to grow ferns or other things on fire escapes, nobody's checking. Cops ain't checking, firemen ain't checking, nobody's checking. So if you want to grow some sort of exotic ferns, fire escapes. Another way the fire escapes are with legs to the ground. A lot of them have legs to the ground, usually sitting on a sono somewhere here. Now the building is a leg is a leg, and guess what you have? You have a little bridge. Okay? That's another way the fire escapes are made. And that's what these things look like. Sometimes they get smashed and they get bent. But what broke here? The masonry wall or the veneer? The veneer. Everybody thinks this is the structural. So guess what a lot of vendors fix? They only fix this. They just stick it back in there, goopy, cementy, and see you later. And your wood ones. Wood is just that. Wood must have a through bolt. Whenever you see a latch screw, it's an illegal installation. Must have a through bolt. Cantilevers. This is what a release arm looks like, guys. It's supposed to walk, 150-pound woman. By the time she comes down the stairs and she pushes through the release arm, guess what's already on the ground? The fire escape. 2 to 3 feet per second, hits the ground, stays down. This is what a release arm looks like. And it's open. And the fire escape is where?
Still up.
And what's on the back of it?
Chain.
A chain. So anywhere in your city you see a chain, is it legal or illegal?
Illegal.
It's an illegal modification. The cantilever's out of balance, and you have to walk out 5+ treads in order to counteract that, and you're going to slam the ground, and you better hold on. Smashes, crashes, trash trucks, cement trucks. This is what they do with a cantilevers. They get out of balance. By the way, you know what this is called? This is called the fire escape lottery ticket. You know why? Because when a trash truck or a cement truck smashes this, do I just fix this, or do I have to bring back the entire escape back into operational condition?
I'm doing the whole thing over.
I'm doing the whole thing over. So the trash truck guy thinks I'm just fixing the cantilever. I said, no. I have to certify the whole thing. So I tell the owner, sorry that this trash truck hit your fire escape, but this is a fire escape lottery ticket. They are going to fix your whole thing. Even though you didn't maintain it for many years, they have to repair it structurally and give it a paint job. So we tell a lot of owners that have this unfortunate occurrence, I say, dude, you got a fire escape lottery ticket here. But you didn't scratch it, somebody else scratched it for you. Staircases. Forget the tread. Sometimes the stringers that hold the whole stringer section is out of whack. So you got there's clips at the top that hold the whole stringer, and there's clips at the bottom. But every now and then the stringers, look at all the rust on the stringer. So forget about a tread giving way. The whole stringer can give way. This is a 25-story hotel in Chicago. This is rust, holding a stringer. This is staircase that in the middle of the night, the tenants or the firemen can't see that.
Is this the same building?
No, this is just all over the country. Railings, clipped to or sometimes into the veneer. Grading. Two types of grading out there. The flat grading with the spacers in them. You think they painted the inside of these spacers? Once they rot inside, you think I can fix this? All right, two things you can do with grading. Swap it out, or can I put a piece of flat above, a piece of flat below, create a sandwich with some simple bolting, and create a squish, the sandwich, and basically duplicate this connection? Will that keep them from separating? What guys usually do is they come underneath it with a piece of flat and they weld every bar to the flat. But the bars have what on them? Lead. Can they weld those? Do they have a fire permit anyway to be welding over that backyard full of leaves on that wooden structure? So that's the end. You don't always have to replace the grating, but there's ways to basically, with connections, with bolts, to get it repaired. Again, these are sites and shots from all over. Even the treads have those little connectors. And sometimes we have to basically replace the tread, or we have to connect that tread back to itself so it doesn't pop off. Because as soon as you put your foot on the first nose flat and it gives way, what happens to you? You go down the stairs. You guys remember what that test we did, right? This is a elementary school in New Jersey. They're all out there. That's an inch of rust, guys. And ladders. Ladders are supposed to be just like a cantilever. Drop to the ground, hit the ground, and stay down under a balanced system. Or they can be, I believe, the lowest rung can be 7 feet. Is that what you guys normally have? It's about 7 feet. The last rung is 7 feet. You can jump to the ground. Otherwise, if you're going to make it all the way to the ground, you can, and people are breaking in, you can do fold-up ladders. You know that, right? You can put the existing ladder on a weight system so that it drops to the ground. You know what the height limit is in New Jersey? On some single families, 16 feet. You can jump 16 feet, they say. Clothes are just wacky everywhere. So, but again, there's another thing people have done with their ladders, and they've taken ladders and swapped them. Here's some ladders that are typical throughout the country. You see this usually going to your attic, but they have these. It's called a 3-slide. Anybody ever seen an accordion ladder? West Coast. They basically will expand out to 25 feet. Used on every building, pretty much, that has, those 15-foot story, 15-foot mezzanine buildings and such. So it's called an accordion ladder. And you guys have the standard ladders mounted to the wall. Here's a balanced ladder, very typical down in New York and New Jersey, with a balanced weight on them. You release them, and what do? They drop 2 to 3 feet per second. If you have a release arm on a cantilever, isn't that also an anti-theft device? keeps people from breaking into your building if it's locked in. The same thing with these pins. You know, if you have a pin on it or a chain on it that is a simple device, single action requiring no special knowledge, they drop 2 to 3 feet to the ground. Ladders over to the roof, guess who uses these? The firefighters. They have to be in perfect condition. Otherwise, these things pull off a roof, guess who gets killed? This is those flop-out ladders, they call them. People will take existing ladders and they cut them in half and then they make the top half flop out. Guess what happens when you have a ladder swinging out and you're on the bottom end of it? Drives you into the ground like a nail. Is that legal? No. So you can't do this modification to your ladder so that it flops out and hits the ground like that. Because if you're down below as a fireman, as a child, or a dog, you're going to kill that person or severely maim them. So, what are some of the things you can do? What I'd like to do now is, as I'm talking about what some of the things you can do, I'd like to have those, I put together an example of a typical starter pack that includes a confidence test, includes tags, includes the brochure, and I've used Boston as an example. So now Boston is not accepting this. This is just for the class, the purposes of the class. I had to pick one city, so I did a Boston example. Now you can do this yourself. You can go online and just get it from whatever association or whatever fire department or building department has it, and just put and download their PDF or their Word document, or you can just ask us through your association president to basically make a pack for you. So let me, while I'm talking about this, there's a sample of one on the back here, but it's naked. That's the one you would find on the Seattle, but it doesn't have your code on it. So I want to go over today what we've done, but this is the exact one that was sending you out as an example. So let's talk about what you can do. Boston, immediately after that Hank Phillippe Ryan thing, started saying, so please write that down. Your building department will not sign off on any permit, will not close a permit until you have a copy of the current certification of the fire escape. So are you asking for inspection? Nope. You're just asking for a copy of what should already be there, that's all. And if they don't have it, what do you kindly say to them? Need it. Just go get one and we'll close this up. That's it. So this is an awareness program. Are we violating fire escapes in your city, or are we just identifying them for now? And so permit. Now, with your fire inspectors, you know how they do the smoke detector sign-off? Please ask your fire inspectors, when they're doing the sign-off, usually means somebody is getting in there to pay rent, somebody's getting in the building, there's an occupancy. What does he ask for to help you guys out? It's a checklist item. A copy of the permit, of the certification. And if that person at that time says, I don't have one, what does he say? He can still sign off the smoke detector thing, right? But what's he notify you guys about? That there isn't. So they're doing that now in certain cities. They're starting to work hand in hand with a checklist item. You guys are understaffed, budget cuts. You need to make this a checklist item. It's the thin one. It's the 4-page one. Okay, guys? So, starting your downtown. You start in your downtown, you got enough old buildings that are 5-story in your downtown that have not been certified in the past 25 years. Speak with your channel 3, if you have a cable access thing, put it on your cable 3. There's no need to change the law. Let's talk about the law. All right, guys? Does everybody have one of these? Everybody have the new handout? Let's go right to the law, right? The Mass Building Code, 101.3 used to be 1028.3, and let's go to page 2. So this is the first page, and again, this is just a sample. You can do this yourself, and you can put your logo here where it says Boston, you can put your name here, or you can have us do it for you. It's your choice. But go to page 2, please. And aside from testing and certification, which is yes, no questions, you can read them at your leisure, let's talk about right here where I put 2 codes. I put the Mass Building Code and then NFPA 101, Life Safety Code. Let's see if they both say the same thing. Let's start off with the NFPA Life Safety Code. Under materials and strength, if ever you want to go find it. I just recently found it. We did a class 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago in Concord, New Hampshire, and I couldn't find the code until a guy in the class says, dude, you got a book there? And he goes, it's right here. And I'm like, I could never find it. That's where it was buried. I couldn't find it. And it basically says, let's see if this makes sense. The NFPA 101 says that the authority having jurisdiction, guess who that is, shall be permitted to approve any existing fire escape that has been shown by load test. And then, or other satisfactory evidence to have adequate strength. To who? Who do they have to prove this to?
Yes.
To you. Now let's take a look at the Mass Building Code. All exterior bridges. Have I mentioned fire escapes yet? No. Steel or wooden stairways. Have I mentioned fire escapes yet? Fire escapes and egress balconies shall be examined and or tested. What's the word test means there? Load test. And certified. So there's the other satisfactory. For structural adequacy and safety every 5 years by a Massachusetts registered professional engineer or others qualified and acceptable to the building official who will then submit an affidavit. Is this an affidavit? This industry standard documentation, is that an affidavit? From the engineer. You don't sign this, the engineer signs this. Is this an affidavit?
It would be from him, yeah.
It would be from him, right? This is from, you don't sign these things. He signs these things to you. This is nothing but an industry standard document that already exists in fire codes. By the way, we had some great success. Just as of January 15th of this year, Portland, Oregon, everything's West Coast for some reason, just adopted all these standards into their code and became effective January 15th. So one state down, and they want confidence tests, tags, load test, or verifiable refurbishment of their fire escapes. Because they're also 100-year-old fire escapes out there too. So we were very proud of that because that was one of the classes. We've been working with them for 5 years, and they finally not only did it on the city level, they changed their state code. If anybody wants to know what that code is, we can put you in touch with the people out there that did it and what process they had to go to. They didn't change the code too much. They just added the additional language that said we need it on an official document that is industry standard, a questionnaire of some kind, and we want some tagging on the fire escapes. So that was the change that was made. We were pretty proud of that. So, guys, do the two codes pretty much say the same thing? Yeah? I'm going to show you the international code, the international building code, the international fire code, and the NFPA. They all say the same three things. So I'll show that. So that way you're never fighting anybody. The word is very simple. On every fire escape that is 75, what about a 25-year-old fire escape? We're going to get this crazy with it? Or in conversation with your engineer, he's going to make you feel comfortable about the situation? This is really for the majority of the fire escapes out there that are 50, 75, 100 years old. You want a load test or you want guaranteed certification? Go ahead.
Look at the painting part of it. Painting, required painting part of it. Where do you get that?
Well, it must be maintained. In the Mass Building Code, under 101.3, 101.1, there's an obstruction code, can't obstruct it. Well, I think 101.2, you must keep it maintained, which is keep it painted. 101.3 is you got to test it and certify it. Yes?
Back to sandwiching the gratings. Isn't that a trip hazard?
You got to use usually a quarter inch is not going to be a trip hazard, but there's no other cure for it. And you have to use carriage bolts on the top so that, just to keep everything as low down to the ground as possible. Otherwise, rip the grating out and put a new grating. New galvanized grating, because everything nowadays should be new galvanized grating. So this is what we've done, and it starts with you. So if anybody wants to basically have us do the starter pack for you, call us directly, or you can speak with through your president, have them call us, and we'll basically work with you. We also, again, this is all free for us to come down into your city. We'll do a 1 to 3 hour downtown walk around. So we'll meet you in your downtown. We'll just walk around, and otherwise, if you don't have time, under YouTube channel, you have Firescape Engineers and you have Firescape Academy. We have nothing but probably about 500 videos nationwide of us doing walkarounds, and everybody saw that in the beginning. I was walking around. That was the guy from Concord. We did a class, and that afternoon he was walking around downtown with me, and we use him to train you because you don't have time for downtown. So go online. YouTube is great. It's our own personal TV station, and you use it to basically say, do you want to see what the downtowns look like? Any downtown in the U.S. is your downtown. So don't think you have anything different or special. And this is what we've done. We've done housing authorities. So in Boston, we did the housing authority over there by Chinatown. I think they're called the Metropolitan Housing Authority. We've also done Washington, D.C. We did 50 inspectors down there. We've done Portland, Oregon, New Jersey. We've done all over the country. We've done classes. This is the Tacoma one. When you read our confidence test in the Tacoma one, it's the same one. She was in the class with us. That's Sue Boxar. And same questions. It's all yes, no. No more opinions. They want a yes, no. They want some guarantees. And the best thing that they came up with also was the yearly. We love the yearly because Seattle doesn't do the yearly. So we said, you know what? So we kind of married both of them together. We think that the structural engineer is involved every 5 years, but we think the owner and all the management company is involved every year, and they walk it. Don't you walk it. You go downstairs in the alley and you say, walk the fire escape and sign this document, so they activate all the releases, they do everything, they climb out windows, they do whatever to come down the fire escape. And that'll keep them on their toes if you make them walk the fire escape and sign the yearly document.
Well, we can't mandate them to do that, it's not in our code to do that.
I understand that. It's strongly suggested then. Whatever word you go. I'm not here to write code. I'm just saying that you need this document that says that somebody has walked it. They say there on this document it says that the bolts are good, the paint is good, and all the moving parts and ladders are functional. When do you want to see that? They said they did it, or do you want to see it physically? So it's really like, do you want to witness? And a lot of times this is called witnessing. So I'm here to witness these three questions. This is not a structural engineer that does this one. They can get a structural engineer to do this every year, but it's the yearly touch on a fire escape. All right? This is the standard document that you get out of Boston. The only thing we don't like about it is, to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, the fire escape is in accordance. I don't like it. This is where everything went downhill, is the opinion letter, the CYA, right? The other thing I don't like also, and I carry a G3 license, guys. I carry a Reg 4 out of California, and I carry a G3. I can inspect and I can repair. And I love it when I can repair and inspect my own work, because I think all electricians, plumbers, and who else is out there that should be just like me, do their own things, inspect their own things, and never pull permits. Raise your hand, because then you guys have less things to do every day. Because we're out there looking. So I strongly suggest, and I've even written a letter to Gary Moshe. I said that in Boston, my G3 license should be to inspect, but not to repair. But if I'm going to repair it, somebody else has to sign off on my work. I strongly suggested that, that in a G3 license situation, that there should be engineer oversight, because I'm only ordered now to do one of two things: load test it or refurbish it. It needs a structural engineer, because the building inspectors don't have time to babysit me. So you need somebody that's willing to put his signature on the line, and that's a structural engineer. So that's my thing about the only area that I don't like in the G3 license, is that there's a little bit of play that you can work and sign off on your own stuff, and you never pull permits, because I'm always painting a fire escape. So just remember, these fire escapes are 75 years old. Is there any more painting left on these things? Or is it more structural and or replacement coming up now? So don't let fire escapes in your city be repaired without a permit. So even when you get a certificate, a letter, an opinion letter from an engineer, send them the confidence test and say, please fill this out. And say, because it's already on the confidence test, it says, there's a spot there that says, for the permit information. It's all asking for the permit and the renovator's license and everything. So you walk backwards. Every time you get a certificate from somebody, just walk backwards. It's a little tap on the ears, a little slap on the wrist. Say, guys, thank you for the certificate. Have your engineer fill this out now. By the way, where's the permit? Oh, no permit? Okay. Who was the vendor? Let's get him in here. Let's have him fill out the application. Give us what? The $200, $300, $100, $900, depending on how much it is as a percentage, so that my city can have a few more bucks to buy more coffee. And let's just walk backwards. And you basically warn that guy. Say, hey, vendor, you do this again. There's no baseball here. This is strike one, the only one. Next fire escape you do in my city, you pull a permit. Mr. Engineer, thank you for the certificate, and thank you for this. And did you walk the fire escape? Did you check and read exactly what we said? It's right here on this page. It says, under the structural, 100% of all the fire escape is 100% free of all rust in the connections. Did you read that? All critical materials and connections or joints are 100% free of all internal rust or rot. You read that, right? Because you checked yes on everything else. Did you read that? Because you signed it. And you know what we want, and we tell this to all the inspectors, because your vendor gave us a 10-year warranty. Because after you look at this fire escape, and after you clean out all the rust on these connections that took 75 years to get to this point, and you clean out the connection, you prime it, you inject it with 50-year silicone, do you think it'll last 10 years? So is it unreasonable to get from every vendor a 10-year warranty? So the owner only has to keep it painted? Because as long as he keeps it painted, guess what happens to my fire escape? It will always pass. Hank Philip Ryan told you there's 8,500 fire escapes just in Boston. You give me a fire escape a day, still leaves another 8,000 and something for everybody else. There's plenty of them.
I don't know how they come up with that figure, because we had people going around trying to count them and they couldn't find them all.
I think what it was, and the story that I heard from Boston, if you're talking about Boston, they identified with a group, this is in the 70s, 8,500 fire escapes. They put them in a file cabinet, and then it just sat there, and that's the process.
There was a special, I was there at that time, there was a special grant that was given to the city of Boston to go out and have people, unqualified people, identify
All the fire escapes.
fire escapes, and then send the inspectors, me and others, these things saying, go out and inspect them, they're not gonna pass. You know, all I wanna do is say, hey, you get a affidavit from a licensed engineer saying that that is okay, and that's all I care about.
Boston.gov, permits, search permits, other documents. What do you find? All the documents that are in there, including permits, you know, from the jacket. Guess what you can find on Boston.gov? The last certificate given to that building. And a lot of times those certificates are 5, 10, 15 years out of date because they've digitized every single one. Yes.
What's the average inspection cost? I know it depends on how many and how high.
Good question. Every structural engineer out there will charge you anywhere from $75 to $175 an hour. He's going to take 5 to 10 hours to do every fire escape inspection on a standard 1 to 3 story kind of thing. So you do the math, and that's a structural engineer's fees. Most general iron workers who are calling themselves inspectors are charging anywhere from $100 to $500 for every one of those inspections. But a lot of them don't generate a report. It's just, you know, it's a pass-fail, like eyeball test, but that's what you're getting. The average that we charge for inspections could be as low as $89 for a balcony and $489 for a 5-story. And that's a pass-fail report with the full photographs, with us having to speak with the owner and the inspector, and then we've gone one step. If you go to Fire Escape Engineers on YouTube, you type in Fire Escape Engineers, we do a summary review. We speak as we're on the fire escape, and then there's a slideshow right after of all the photographs you take. So that make your job a lot easier. If you have a smartphone now and say, hey, there's a fire escape we just did and it failed, you can just watch it online through the YouTube channel as to what our findings were. But you still get a full report afterward, either faxed to you or emailed, because even though you guys got email, some of you can't get access to YouTube. Some of you don't have emails because you got bombarded or whatever, so we have to use snail mail or fax to get this information back to you.
And you're saying most of the states you go to, the fire department controls this?
40 out of 50 states, it's fire department. I do fire training more than I do building training. Question?
So, you guys structural engineers, so
No.
you have a structural engineer on every report that you do?
No, again, in Massachusetts, structural engineers are others acceptable to the building official, others acceptable, right? But we have structural engineers on staff, if that's your question.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just wondering, so there's no design of fire escapes in our code, so there's no code reference for each bolt and each repair, so how can you have, other than a registered engineer, do a design, do a repair design?
It's simple. When you're going, it's simple today. I don't care about any of these bolts because every one of the major structural connections has to be blown out anyway. I have to replace it with a new bolt. And here's the great thing. If I load test the fire escape today, a good fire escape, no rust in its connections, is there any liability for me after I load test it? I load tested it. Something happens after the load test. A year later, something happens on the fire escape. And I load tested a year ago. Any liability?
You passed the day you did it, right?
Right, it load tested that day. We refurbished the whole fire escape, okay? So we didn't load test it, we refurbished 100% of all the connections, the major structural. And 1 year later, the fire escape fell. Do I have any liability? And there's a signature for an engineer, you know, stamp on it. Do I have any liability?
Yes.
None. The bolt company does. Because I didn't fail, I did the second thing you can do by law. Load tested are the satisfactory evidence, which is a full refurb. Can I go any further other than a full replacement? So I refurbished, and we get there, we do an investigation, and one of the bolts sheared. Who are you suing? The bolt company, who has manufacturer's insurance. And we go there, oh, this is a bolt from China, and whatever, and that's not but we did the only two things. So now, the word guarantee is starting to come back in, which is a load test will get you the word guarantee, and refurbishment will get you that, because now we're passing the liability onto the bolt company, as long as the work is done right and overseen.
Okay, then can't sue you, but what about...
No, we're always going to get sued, but we can kind of tiptoe a little bit more away, and we bring in Joe Bolt Company. That's all we
How
do.
about an engineer? I mean,
No, he's going to get sued, but he did everything that the law said he had to do. So he's in the mix, but they start tiptoeing because it's really what really happened that day was on the refurbished fire escape. Some bolt sheared that should have never sheared by law or by because of whatever. So it's a design flaw that we had nothing to do. We just put in what they got. Here's the 3 codes. Ready, guys? We went over the testing, right? We went over the testing, and we're pretty clear, right? That shall be examined, so that's a critical
Keep it down
examination.
back there, please.
So that's a critical examination. Tested, that's a load test, so it's already in your code, man. I've never done a load test in Massachusetts, ever. I never had an engineer ask me for a load test, ever. But is it in your code? Do we have to rewrite code, or is it already here? And certified. What's the word certified means? That's another word for refurbished. So if I only want to spot paint my fire escape, what are you going to make me do? I only want to fix a couple of bolts, a couple of treads, and a couple of connections. What are you going to make me do?
Engineer.
You're going to make me test it. Anything that's spot repaired from now on must be load tested. You refurbish it, what do you avoid? In lieu, you avoid the load test because you're giving me satisfactory evidence, and that's the NFPA. The authority having jurisdiction shall be permitted to approve any existing fire escape stair that has been shown by load test or other satisfactory evidence to have adequate strength. We're putting the dirty word in your mouth now, guys. It's the word load tested or give me other satisfactory evidence to avoid this load test. Because these things are 75 years old. The 3 codes, 50 states use these 3 codes. The International Fire Code says testing and certification. I have to cut it down a little bit, right? But you go to any International Fire Code, it says this. Testing and certification. Any fire escape system found to be in a state of deterioration or unsafe shall be repaired immediately. Depending upon structural condition, a load test shall be conducted. So the word depending upon structural condition, so who do you have to satisfy not to load test it? The fire official. That's their codes. Nationwide, that's the International Fire Code that various states have adopted, and that's the exact code, 1028.6. The NFPA code, we've already done. Authority having jurisdiction. Load test or other satisfactory. So the word load test keeps being the first word. The International Building Code, which is you guys. All exterior fire escape systems shall be examined or tested, which means spot repaired and then load tested, or certified for structural adequacy and safety, which means fully refurbished in lieu of a load test. Am I saying something wrong, or does anybody disagree where the 3 of them nationwide sort of say the same thing? Yes?
So an engineer turns around and tells you, okay, you just have to swap out, tread number, this tread, that tread, and everything else is fine, that's against the law.
No, it's not. He's not going to tell you. Your engineer needs to speak with a building inspector and tell him what the game plan is for that fire escape. Now, if that engineer is doing the wrong thing, the inspector and that engineer are going to catch each other eventually. But if you're doing it with a building permit, right, and the engineer told you to change 3 bolts and that's all I need, all of a sudden, who's the final walkthrough on the fire escape after it's been signed off by a structural engineer and it has a permit? Who's the final walkthrough? The inspector. The inspector goes there and sees work that you've done under the direction of a structural engineer who said 3 bolts and 7 things over there. And then the inspector says, what the hell is this? And the inspector pulls out what? What trump card does he pull out if there's no satisfactory evidence that has adequate strength? What does he order immediately? A load test. Or say, hey, I'm about to drop my load test card. He goes, or, let me speak with the engineer again, have you come back, and I want every major structural connection, which means all the treads, all the supports, and all the tiebacks have to be reinforced or duplicated, or replace these bolts. And then I will avoid this load test question. Yes?
If, as building officials, we allow, in lieu of a structural engineer...
No, not in lieu of a load test. Not a structural. There's always a structural engineer. Not in lieu of a structural engineer, in lieu of a load test.
Well,
Structural engineer is always there.
okay, well, in the testing and certification in our building code, it says that we can use a registered design professional or others qualified.
Right.
What is the criteria that we should use to put those people in a column as qualified?
Perfect. Structural engineers are always qualified.
Okay, outside of that.
Architect walks in and says, I want to start making money in your city. He just comes and gives you credentials.
Yep.
Credentials is something similar to what we have here. And, as we start giving, we would have meetings, one-on-ones with you and say, hey, we'd like to be included in that. Otherwise, we have to bring in our structural engineer, which drives the cost up for every inspection. But that's okay. We have to walk you through and tell you what we do. We'd have to show you some examples of our inspection techniques. We'd have to show you our repair guidelines. We'd have to show you also you know, here's a standard repair guideline that we, way before we even fix it, we're telling you that if we're watching somebody, this is what they have to do.
So you have paperwork that makes you qualified?
Everybody, right,
So you got a bunch of paperwork?
yeah,
So you qualify with
that's what,
paperwork?
everybody acceptable to the building official, otherwise the building official always drops back to the structural guy.
Right.
But you'd say others qualified, meaning if they want to work in your city as an inspector,
Yeah.
they come in and have a sit-down and say, I do this, I know this, I've been in it for 20 years, here's my stuff, you know.
What type of welding certificate should they bring to me?
Well, anybody want to answer that? Can we weld anything on fire escapes anymore? No. You don't need a welding certificate
Do they need a
anymore. You didn't need it
CSL?
before, you don't need it now because you can't even use a good
Well,
certificate
they can
now.
weld in their shop, right?
Yeah, new steel.
So they can weld in their shop?
Well, that's new fabrication.
Right, well, that could
This-
be brought
this is
out as a
only repair.
repair. Can
Huh?
you bring a whole set of stringers and
Oh.
thread, all welded in your shop and make a connection with bolts at the top?
Right. Are you
So-
going to watch it or the structural engineer going to watch that in the
I
shop?
don't know, I said in lieu of a structural.
I know.
So.
No, you
someone's
can't, you
gonna-
can never have in lieu of a structural engineer. There's always going to be a structural engineer involved. The guy that's going to watch it, whether it's being refurbished or load tested, is the structural engineer. That's what we're trying to get ahead to. The norm right now is that somebody in the area of Boston calls a structural engineer, pays them anywhere from $200 to $600 to go there. He does a thing, he writes a letter that says the fire escape needs some maintenance, do this or that, either very good or very bad, but basically a letter. And then the owner gets this letter and he calls 5 guys to come and give a bid. He does not give them this letter. Those vendors all come out and they say, hey, I can do this from $3,000 to $13,000. Guess who the owner picks who's got a scrape and paint violation in his hands? He picks the $3,000 guy. Has he called the engineer? No. The guy who wants to do it for $3,000 does whatever he wants and he does that. And then he quickly gets paint on it. Sometimes they paint it first, then weld it, and then touch up. It's faster that way, just in case you want to know the faster way to do it. Paint it first. Then when the guy's all done, guess who he calls? The guy who we gave $200 to $500 before and say, it's all done, can you come here and check it? Because I had a guy magically hide it with paint and silicone. And guess what the guy does? He drives down, he's got a CYA letter, and guess what he's doing on that drive-through? He drives up. Thank God the fire escape is on a part of the building that he can drive up to. He rolls, no, it doesn't roll down anymore. He electrically brings, he's making money, so he electrically brings down his window, goes, hey man, that thing looks very good. Here's my CYA letter. Do you have my check? It looks good. The guy goes, don't you want to walk? He goes, nah, I didn't walk it the first time. Why should I walk it the second time? I made $1,000. I've got my CYA. You're not making me sign a confidence, a confidence letter that asks me specific questions. I'm out of here.
However,
Oh, there's a, go ahead.
however, to answer the question that you're looking for, the building's over 35,000 cubic feet.
Okay.
He's gonna require the permit anyhow. He's gonna have the construction control, and it's gonna be the structural. So,
That's what the law says, but I'll tell you, I've done many 5 or 10-story buildings.
yeah, I know, yeah.
I'm the guy that breaks into cars, and I'm here to tell you how not to get your car stolen. I've done it the right way. I got 40 years on this. I'm like Edison, man. I can tell you 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb. I also tell you how to make a light bulb today. But if you want to know all the wrong ways to cheat, you got a rusty hole? Man, you take some duct tape. Not even duct tape. You take some masking tape, and you just cover the hole with masking tape. Spray paint it with black, grab dirt, and you throw it at it, and it looks like rust, dude. And you cash that check. I did this for you guys to see all the wrong ways that I can still make money on a fire escape. Because I can do a hit and run on a fire escape for $3,000 because the guy doesn't have $13,000 to do it the right way. And when he does it for $13,000, you know how long before he fixes it again? It'll be 50 years before he fixes it again. Whereas if I hit him for $3,000 this year, guess what's not going to happen in 5 years? He's not going to pass. I'll hit him for $5,000 in those years, and then guess what's going to happen 5 years later? This is like an annuity. Fire escapes are like an annuity. If you have a list, it's an annuity. You always go back, and whatever you didn't fix is sitting there rotting, and you're going to make money constantly. Because you know who never checks your work? Building inspectors. You know what you never need? Permits. Because you guys are writing scrape and paint violations. So thank you very much. But now, children are dying. This is an elementary school, guys. They're going to the playground, recess, 2 or 3 times a day. They will go to the recess park through this fire escape. The same fire escape every year. A building inspector or a fire inspector walk through. Yes.
I've done, I don't know how many fire escape repairs, and I've been involved with several painting. I wouldn't really go after guys that paint and just do an ordinary repair. You can't get them to fix the fire escapes in the first place. The way to get this is the 5-year certification. If a guy wants to do some ordinary repairs in between that, that's his business. But the way to trigger this is to find a way, like you said, on your sign-offs, to trigger your 5 years. The other thing is this, I've called several building inspectors over the years and said, I'm repairing fire escape on such and such address. How do you want to inspect it? I've never got, I want to see it before it's painted.
Yeah, out of
I have
sight.
told the engineer, the owner's engineer, I want him to look at it before I paint it.
Yeah.
Okay, I want you to look at it before I paint it and tell me we did what you want. And I've always asked them, even when I got a scope of work, is this as a result of an engineer's report? I want the report.
Well, he's basically saying what is happening. It's the bastard child of egress. Guess what kind of attention it gets? But now that it's 75 years old, and I'll get you to your question in a second. Now that it's 25 years old, are we all in agreement? Can we weld ever any more fire escapes in Massachusetts? No. If they have lead on them, you can't weld them. You need a fire permit and all these things. Emergency repairs. Can I put a tread back with the bolt that was originally there? So there's your emergency repair. The same bolt that dropped is the same bolt I put back. Hold on just 1 second. I'm going to give it here. So we're in agreement that welding is no longer an acceptable means of repair on a fire escape that has lead. Number 2, are we in agreement that the law says low test or other satisfactory means? Yeah. To who? Because he was doing your job. He was basically saying, I called here and I called there and I spoke, and it's the bastard child of egress. From now on in your city, every time a fire escape, a sprinkler system, an alarm is going to be worked on, doesn't somebody give you the courtesy and sit with you and show you a plan and open it up and tell you all the fire escapes have never gotten that courtesy in 75 years. I'm telling you, all you have to do is just understand that a structural engineer will be placing a call because he's got a violation and he just wants to sit down and discuss photographs with you and what his game plan and his criteria for review and repair of that fire escape, and how he, the structural engineer, is going to watch a vendor. Not you. The only thing you're going to do is at the very end, when you go and check the permitted repairs, is check the engineer, because the engineer just signed up and says, I'm telling you, it's great. But when you do your walkthrough and you go do the final yourself and you see that there's a lot of crap still there, who are you going to blame? The vendor or the engineer for not proper oversight? An engineer. So this is just tying you guys back up. So what was your question? Then we'll go to your question.
I know mostly everybody has the same problem. It's staffing. You have 40 states having the fire department do it because they have 6 or 7 inspectors doing inspections, and most towns have 2 or 3 building inspectors.
Correct.
You know, that's what's happening. So how many inspectors are going to go out and someone says they're painting fire escape, you're going to go out, you can't do your regular work.
Yeah, you got to make it a checklist item. By making it a checklist item that you have to pull a permit. So no matter when you get your document, you get a certificate at the end, fill in the blanks backwards. You write a violation, you have to tell the owner, as soon as you hire an engineer, have him call me before any work is done. Okay? And that engineer, what you're going to send him? You send him, you give the client this document. We've already made it for you. This was help. We got help from a state building inspector that told you generic, keep it clean, not promotional, and basically it tells what the code is and what you're looking to do. And with that checklist item, that's how it's going to help your staff. You can't remember this. It has to be checklist item.
It should be done with every department in your city, like if the rental, a lot of buildings you're not in, the rental guy should have
maintenance,
a certificate of
fire,
procedure.
housing, yeah.
The housing.
And if it's not happening, just call Help Me Hank.
Help Me Hank, kids, let's call Help Me Hank. Within 1 second, just so you know, guys, we do have, when you go to Fire Escape Academy on YouTube, the videos there show building departments. The videos there are housing departments. The videos there are fire departments. So if you have a connection in the fire department, you send them one of our videos. You don't have to send them this video. They don't want to watch your videos. They hate your guts. So you send them fire department videos. I got them from all over the country. And vice versa, when it's the property maintenance or the housing guys, the housing inspectors, you send them a housing training class because it's geared to them. Okay? So it's on Firescape Academy. When you go on YouTube, just type in Firescape Academy. About 500 videos we've done. This will be online in 30 days. So in case you retire, give up, forget, go back and watch this very same class. Okay? So now your question, yes.
The process should be the same as a regular building, a rough and finish inspection.
Yes.
When the building inspector shows up for the rough inspection, that's when the engineer certification should be in his hand. The building inspector on the finish can see the thing's painted.
Right.
He doesn't need the engineer after, who may only look at it after it's been painted.
I have-
If you force him to look at it before it's been painted, he'll pick up stuff.
I have 2 cures for this right now that are immediate, and I know they're going to work. One is, I want all electrical and plumbing and anybody else holding a license to be able to sign off on all their work and just ease the load on you guys a little bit and be just like Firescape guys. Not only repair them, but we can sign off on our own work. That's one of the things I'm going to fight for. And if that's not going to fly, the second thing is that I'm also looking to do nationwide is have all rent checks now collected through the Firescape from now on. So anybody paying their rent should duct tape their rent check to the outside of the window, then call their landlord and say, hey, I have your rent check. It's outside the Firescape, and come and get it. And I don't know why you haven't been here. There's 3 months worth of checks there that you haven't picked up already. So is there a problem? You know what I'm saying? Other than that, the codes are there to support you guys. There is property maintenance codes. There's all this issue about can you touch a 1-2 family. Guys, I'm just here to tell you that the fire code, the building code, the NFPA all say the same thing. So whenever somebody's trying to dodge you and whatever, every code says the same thing. You write a violation, the first thing out of your mouth is the word what? What's the dirty word now? Come on, guys. It's like a concept. All right, the first dirty word which you've never uttered in 75 years. You write a violation, you walk outside, and you scare the crap out of them by saying the word load test or other satisfactory evidence, which means they're going to say what to you? They're going to say, huh? What's that mean? Great. For the first time, there's going to be dialogue. So you write a violation, you send them one of these forms either electronically or they pick it up at the desk because they're going to come in screaming, and your secretary there hands them what? This document that answers every engineer's question, every vendor's question, and every painter's question, so they don't have to speak with you and you don't have to answer the phone. So write a violation and immediately attach this, or write your violations on the back of the sheets, just to save yourself a little time. But the dirty word that comes out of your mouth, you wrote a violation on a Firescape, the first word is I wanna, or other satisfactory evidence. That's it. And who's going to give you that other satisfactory evidence? Structural engineer or others that have gone out of their way to prove to you that they want to do business in your city. Otherwise, structural engineers. Conference tests, you can get them right online or we'll do them for you. The yearly.
In the back.
We're at the
Keep it
tail.
down.
Is it? What time is it now? Just so I can. Just before 12. Very good. I'm just now this is the quick quiz for you guys. Ready? This is just something that just came out of, we did a class up in Lowell. They're sending this letter out with the next tax bill. And you know what it says? We're starting to identify firescapes. We're not inspecting firescapes. We're starting to identify all the firescapes in Lowell. So this is going out with a letter that says we'd like you to be aware that we are now taking attention to the firescape. So if you want to copy this letter, we can always send it to you. This is what a letter looks like. If you wrote a violation to me, I will send you this letter. I'm going to ask you to tell me, do you want a load test? Do you want refurbishment? Or you want spot repairs in a load test? You tell me, because I'm going to tell you what documentation you're going to get. This is me to you saying you wrote a violation. What do you want? Because I need to get my liability. Because if you just want spot repairs and a load test, or you want a load test, or you want refurbishment, I need you to acknowledge. So this is how I prove to you that we know this is what you're going to get if you use if the client uses us. We're also going to be talking about repairs and guidelines. Let me just go back one. Repairs and guidelines. This is what we would tell you, and it's easy. If I'm fixing a tread, 100% of rust removal. I'm fixing a support, 100% of rust removal. I'm fixing rails, 100% of, pretty easy. But in case you want to get a standard, you got a guy out there that's doing repairs in your area and he doesn't have a standard, read this. It's in your book. It's a standard of how to fix everything on a firescape. And you know what the first word is? Remove 100% of a connection, then prime it, bolt it, seal it, paint it. So pretty standard. This is one of our typical confidence tests that we do. This is a pass-fail, and this is supporting photos that say it's crap. There's our tag. It's a yellow. Oh, you guys will like this. Ready? How many like the Rutgers slide pole?
Oh, I know, it's great.
Anybody ever hear of a slidescape?
Yes. I've actually heard of that.
You've heard of them, huh?
I have.
In Elizabeth, New Jersey, here's a 12-story slidescape.
Oh, my God.
And this is me and the fire official from Elizabeth, and this is on the roof. But every floor has these two little red doors. And so right here is a slide, no lights. You jump into this cabin, and you slide all the way down 12 stories. And at the very bottom, it hooks left, and it goes down at a 45, and your feet smash into an iron door that flings open, and this is a Art Deco building, 1900s. An acceptable means of egress was a slidescape. So that's the pit. Great story. What they did is the guy who used to be, one of the firemen says his grandfather used to be the maintenance guy there, and the kids, as part of their initiation at the local parochial school, they would have to break in there and slide down the escape and get away with it. And every year there would be the routine of all that crap, and he says his grandfather finally got sick of it. He basically, the building was heated with coal. He got coal dust, and he sprinkled it all the floors. And every now and then he just kept looking for kids that had the white uniforms and thing, and they were all just in black coal dust. That's the kids you knew that were, you
Yeah,
know.
but you see, that was a forefront of the Nile thought.
Yeah. And this is still acceptable today. This is their means of egress today. This building's still an active building. Elizabeth, New Jersey. That's a 12-story dinosaur. Again, some of the documentation we talked about. Whoever wants to inspect in your city or repair in your city, each inspector or vendor should qualify themselves with you so that you don't have landscapers fixing fire escapes. And believe me, they're out there. They're going to show you, the engineers got to show you some evidence. And today, with today's digital technology, it's all there. You don't have to go visit, they can bring the pictures to you. This is the industry standard of what white should look like. Tags, confidence tests. This is what a tag looks like on a fire escape. 7 to 10 feet off the ground, permanently attached, wrapped in plastic. It's sealed in, what do you call the...
Laminated?
Laminated. You guys like this? This was with the help, we came out of another class just like this, and we were trying to figure out a way, and the state official said procedures and guidelines, it's just a suggestive way of doing it. And he goes, you gotta write it so that it doesn't mention people's names, it doesn't tell you how to fix or what bolt to use, but in layman's terms, did we accomplish that to you guys so that an engineer kind of understands what you want? The vendor who's going to fix it, he kind of knows what you want. Everybody tells him, vendor, permits, vendor, you need engineer oversight. You're not going to fix these things by yourself anymore, right? Oh, you going to paint this too? Then you should have your EPA renovator's license, and you know that this thing has lead, so take care on how you're going to collect the chips and all these things. And no welding, right? Because it says so. I don't have to tell you not to weld, and don't let me catch you welding fire escapes. This is what tags look like. You know, imagine a fireman running into an alleyway and he sees a white, what's he doing?
Getting on it.
Getting on it. All the information. Who did it, who inspected it, who repaired it. Everything is on that tag. To avoid what? To avoid this that happened in Marlborough Street. That's the dinosaurs of fire escapes. Ready? You guys ready for a new system?
Well, if you live in a high-rise building, you've probably at least
Designed by a
wondered how
firefighter.
you would get
I'll
out
only play a
of
few minutes
there
of it.
if there was a fire.
This is $2,000 to
The fears became all too real
Not
for
out of the
thousands
group means
of
of egress.
Americans on
This is
September
the third
11th.
means of
Many were
egress.
trapped in the World
For
Trade Center towers as the
high-rise
floors below
escape.
them burned. Well, now inventors are working on new technology to help people get out alive. Ari Odzer has a look at one invention. Go ahead, step up.
And down he goes. Looks simple, and it is. The Recover All high-rise evacuation system being tested on this day by firefighters.
I think this is impressive. It looks pretty easy to set up. It's easy to use. It's hands-free operation.
Put your dog in there, your child in there. Drops you 2 to 3 feet per second to the
Our
ground,
equipment
up to
was
50
designed
stories.
specifically to be used by
We will
senior
look at
citizens,
this for
by
the
children,
Hancock to
That's
put the
why
system
we
in.
chose a device that is fully
Because guess what
automatic
happens with
in
people that make money?
operation.
They want
That's
to go
why
up or
we
they want to start
enclose
coming
the
down.
victim inside a full coverage suit,
Exactly.
which
Don't wanna go
eliminates
up
the fear
anymore.
of heights.
The first step for evacuation is putting on the big suit. Kind of makes you look like a baked potato, but this actually protects you from heat and flames if you're in a real fire situation. The firefighters let us go for a test ride. Picture one of these machines on your condo balcony ready to use, or in your high-rise office stored away for an emergency.
Firefighters are now carrying these and bringing them to buildings and getting people out of buildings because they can't come back down
Once you
anymore.
push back and let go,
This
the
goes up and
machine
down all the
lowers you
time.
gently to the ground at the rate of 3 feet per second.
It's not a
The
one-time
ride
use,
is
you use it
smooth all
several
the way
times.
down. You never speed up, you never slow down. It keeps you at that same rate all the way down to the ground. So the obvious question on everyone's
4,000 per
mind is,
system.
would this system
Some
have
fire
made any
departments are starting
difference
to carry
in
this
the
so they can
World
go to
Trade Center
high-rises and get
disaster?
people off the building. Remember that
My
Cambridge
personal opinion is
situation?
would have
Where the
saved
third
some
floor
people
couldn't
up
let
there,
everybody went to the
This
roof?
cable, they said, was
This is how they would
effective up to
evacuate.
1,000 feet.
This is $2 to $4 million for this one. This happened by a guy that right after 9/11 in Israel. This is an actual building. He invented this system using, of all things, cruise boat technology and lifeboat technology. This is mounted on your roof, costs you $2 to $4 million. We highly recommend that this gets done on any new construction in Boston. Any high-rises they get, it's just an additional $2 to $4 million, but in case you lose all your stairs and elevators, this is operated only by the fire departments. And basically, it's a collapsible elevator system. Fire department totally controls it, and as you can see, this is how they get firemen into the building. At the same time, they get everybody out of the building. If all means of egress have been exhausted, meaning the stairs are blocked, you know, everything, the elevators are not working, and they have to get people off the building. So this is not your primary means out. This is when all hell's broken loose. The fire department controls this. This would add $2 to $4 million to the cost of the building. They have this is a 22-story building in Israel. There's not one in America yet. Why? And it's approved. It's gone through all the approval process. The bag and this system has gone through all the approval. Now they're showing you when even when buildings are not the right size height, you can ramp them in, but usually it's right floor to floor. They can take 15 plus people per elevator system, so they can evacuate on average, 30 to 100 people to be evacuated out every time they go up and down, at the same time driving firemen into the floors. Again, you've exhausted everything. You've exhausted elevators, staircases. All hell's broken loose. That Cambridge fire down by the river where the third floor wasn't letting anybody come down, that the electrical fire situation. And everybody was on the 17th floor. This would have gotten everybody off the 17th floor. This is the new technology that's out there. This is not a second means of egress. This is a third means of egress. It's online if you want to go take a look at it. Just look on the high-rise escape systems and those two bags that I just showed you. $2 to $4 million. We talked about the code, right? All the codes say the same thing. So are you ever going to step on fire code by ordering a load test? Is fire code ever going to step on your toes by ordering a load test? Is NFPA ever going to step on your toes by ordering a load test? They all say start with a load test or other satisfactory means. So the code is already there. We're not rewriting code. We're just interpreting it better. And who oversees that? Structural engineers. Here's another one that you're going to like, guys. Ready? This is from the Department of Education, but this is in every code. When you have fire drills, which is two a month, right? One announced, one unannounced. Everybody has to use the fire escape during the evacuation. So if you got a school with a fire escape, guess what they're supposed to be using? The closest means of egress. And if it's a fire escape, children and firefighters are supposed to be using the fire escape, and they don't. Charter schools, they use old schools, or they use buildings that are old office buildings. And a lot of times they use these office buildings, do they have adequate fire escapes for a school? They usually have fire escapes with ladders. Is that adequate for a school? So a lot of times your charter schools need to upgrade their fire escape systems. You guys know your law. What's the dirty word out of your mouth every time you write a violation? Right, here's a quick one. Ready? All exterior steel and wooden stairs. Have I mentioned fire escapes yet? So, is this an exterior steel and wooden stair?
Yes. Yes.
And they say balconies too, right? We haven't, forget about fire escapes. This is an exterior steel wooden stair balcony. Must be load tested under 101. Porches. Exterior steel wooden stair. Must be inspected under 101. Load tested. Engineer oversight. This is an exterior steel wooden stair. 101. 101. Exterior steel wooden stair. Is this an exterior steel wooden stair? Is this an exterior steel wooden stair including spirals? Exterior steel wooden stair that's off a deck? How about ramps, handicap ramps? Are those exterior steel wooden stairs or bridges? Must be inspected on the 101. Careful of the dogs. Dogs die too on fire escapes, so be careful. How about machinery and tanks and stuff that have fire escapes and back and stuff? They need to be inspected? This is the end of the class, guys. How about, this is in Bentley College. We inspected the bridge. Is this a bridge that's not owned by the state? Who inspects it in your city? This is up in Chelsea Hills, the Chelsea homes. It needs to be inspected. So if you have any walkways and bridges, they need to be inspected on a 101. All exterior steel wooden stairs, bridges need to be inspected. Got a little boat bridge, a little brook bridge. Those need to be inspected.
Landscape bridge. Was it riveted? No.
Ladders.
Do you know it was there? No.
Spirals, they need to be inspected, guys.
Yeah.
Anybody got a hidden slidescape anywhere? No? Just another test? You have to jump in there either head first or ass first. And they don't give you a potato sack. And it's dark, man. 12 stories of darkness. And the door was jammed. They had to send a fireman down there with a flashlight to kick the door open because it was frozen shut for so many years. Some of you that were in the military know that the military had a lot of these slidescapes, but here's some old slidescapes from schools.
Jimmy, phone call, Jimmy.
You know what recess looked like at this school, don't you? And guys, a lot of people have these bag ladders. These are not an acceptable means of egress. They are a third means of egress. Fire escapes is the answer for let's be very clear. The code says no new fire escape, is that correct? Correct. On new construction. What about existing construction? Can I put a fire escape on it? Yep. You bet. Oh, somebody said no?
Yeah, you can.
So remember that. There's always been a confusion. No new construction. You can't dig a hole in the ground, put up a brand new building, and put a fire escape on it. No. But all existing structures, once you've exhausted every means of getting a staircase inside that thing, a fire escape is going to be your answer. You will put it on, they will fight you, they will win. You have the right to put a fire escape once you've exhausted all other means of getting an egress. So sometimes you have a beautiful mansion with a central staircase feeding 4 apartments. Guess what you're going to have on either side? Fire escapes. Are they 24 inches wide, 8 and 8, rise and run all the way to the ground, or are they 7-11? Going out a window or going out a door? Who answers all those questions? You do. But you do that with your engineer and your architect. We're going to draw a brand new plan anyway because it's a brand new fire escape. And is spirals acceptable? No. But once you've exhausted all your means and you have this little nook in the corner, which we did over there at the YMCA in Cambridge, guess what the answer was? A spiral. So spirals are not acceptable unless you've exhausted every means, and mathematically there's no room for anything other than a spiral or a ladder. Can you use a ladder today? No, unless you've exhausted every means, you've even exhausted spirals, they'll let you put it. On a case-by-case basis, they'll let you put in a ladder. Oh. And guys, and what are we trying to hit? This. This is for firemen, this is not for you guys, and now we'll take the applause now. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to eat, and at the end, while you guys, anybody have questions for me, I'll gladly show you my little fire escape here, which we're kind of proud of. And thank you very much for the class.
Thank you, so appreciation of you coming here and giving us that demonstration. This is for Katie Hand.
Katie Hand, yeah, Katie.
Katie.
Left side.
so much. Thank you. I'll let you guys get back to your microphone. Thank you so much. Would you like this? All right, who gave me the most money again for that ticket? Because all right, the number. Yell it out. All right, the number is 497-228. 228 is the last number, guys. 228. 497-228. All expense paid trip to Hawaii. What? No, that's not. No, that's the next one. Is that? Did you right? Thank you, guys. Yep. If anybody has any questions before the food is served and anything related to fire chief, I'll be here.
Frank, you want to reach out? 497-148.
Hey, Gary, you want to come down and have somebody just record some of the questions? What, one of the ironworkers in the area? Or?
Anybody have 148?
So,
These two chairs are taken. This is a blue ticket, 1248129.
Whether he's invited, a lot of times it's the graded. And the building inspector's gonna make that, I mean, the structure inspector's gonna make that call. You have to make that call.
Say that again? Blue ticket, you want the blue ticket? 1248129.
Yet financially, the owner gonna let us. So, but the engineer's saying, switch it up. Does the owner have any say? Let the instruction engineer speak.
I'd like to welcome Frank Calvin, past president. I think Jerry Brown came in here. Did I see her? There's all Jerry Brown, past president.
He's not gonna play. He's going to the income, he's not gonna play. Yeah.
I have another application for associate membership. Scott.
Oh, my God.
Excuse me. Scott Furtado is a contractor renovator, sole proprietor, owner of Ironwood Construction in Melrose. He's been sponsored by Paul E. Johnson. Do I hear a motion to accept his nomination? Okay, and second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Oh, yeah. Okay. Congratulations. And there he is over there. Scott.
You in
Thank you, Scott.
Chelsea. There's a contrast for you, huh?
How you doing in Chelsea?
Good. Yeah. Oh, I haven't seen you in 30 years.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Well, 26 at least.
Yeah, you worked in the production office, right? Yeah.